Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a marvelous day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. There's a topic in America that we don't talk about in public, but I'm going to talk about it today. With inflation rising and the price of everything going up, it seems that poverty is on the rise in America, and for some, it seems that they're going deeper and deeper into poverty. So this video is about America's best kept secret, and that's poverty in white America. We always talk about poverty in black America. We talk about welfare, food stamps, living in the projects, Section 8 housing. Anything to do with poverty in America is attached to black people. What the world doesn't know is that the majority of the poor people in the United States are not black, they're white. The majority of the welfare recipients in America are not black, they're white. The majority of Americans receiving food stamps are not black. But we never talk about white poverty, and the reason is because white people are not the designated bottom caste. Black people are the designated bottom caste. Slavery did us in. It dragged us all the way to the bottom. And any other group of people probably would have stayed at the bottom. But in our case, we had and have gifts and talents that allow us to rise. So you really can't keep us down. And that's what happened. We were our own best survival kit. But everybody gets black poverty. Everybody knows how we started. We know about everything to do with black people and slavery and Jim Crow and peonage and redlining and every other thing about black people, things that kept black people poor. What we don't talk about is the fact that a lot of white people came to the United States during those slavery days, and they didn't have anything either. Many of them were dumped here in the new colonies, as they were then, as criminals. So they were the slugs of the European society, and they were just trying to get rid of them. So they didn't have anything in Europe, and when they came here, they didn't have anything, and they didn't have any connections, and so they were thrown into poverty too. They didn't have the stigma of skin color and slavery, but they also didn't have any bootstraps to pull themselves up with. So they started out poor and they stayed poor. And there's a bunch of them. But their poverty is America's best kept secret, because if America starts talking about their poverty, then they aren't going to say, well, they're just victims and they're lazy and they don't want to work. They don't want to say that. They don't want to say that this government, a lot of it is based on oligarchy. It's based on the rich staying rich and the poor staying poor. Nobody wants to have that conversation. So we say these black people are poor because they're lazy, they don't want to work, and they want a handout. They want something for nothing. That's what they say about black people. They don't want to say that these people were robbed of their opportunities from the beginning, that we have done everything we could to keep them poor. We don't say that. We say they're lazy. They just don't want to work. They don't try hard enough. And we don't say anything about the white people. You have to dig and dig and dig for information about poverty in white America. And the problem with that is that many white people are suffering. I'm not trying to be an advocate for white people. What I'm saying is that they're keeping that poverty hidden and they're putting ours on Front Street. Some of the poorest white people in America live in the Appalachian Mountains. Appalachia begins in Alabama and goes all the way into Canada. That's 2,190 miles, and all along that trail is poor white people. But those people don't get talked about. But now, white people who have survived Appalachia and who know about the poverty are starting to talk and write books. One of the books is written by J.D. Vance called Hillbilly Elegy, in which he speaks of his own life living in Appalachia, having a drug-addicted mother, alcoholics for grandparents, just having the same experiences that many black people, especially those living in large urban cities, are having. There's another book called White Trash, written by Nancy Eisenberg. She didn't grow up in Appalachia, but she studies it. She's a professor at Louisiana State University, LSU, and she traces this line that has been drawn throughout history, the history of America, between wealthy and poor white people. And she says that upper and middle class white people have always looked down upon lower class white people as lesser than, as a breed apart. She compares the way wealthy whites treat poor whites as the same as how white people treat black people. So that explains why white people hold on to the N-word a lot, poor white people in particular, because that's the only thing that separates them from black people. So they're going to hold on to that white because that puts them in proximity to upper class and wealthy whites, that white skin. So they're going to hold on to that white skin for dear life, and they're going to continue to hold on to the N-word. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon because that's their only real claim to whiteness. One of the sobering things that Nancy Eisenberg writes in this book is that wealthy white people treat their poor counterparts scornfully, as embarrassing and pathetic, and that wealthy white people have never reached down through social barriers to help lift poor white people up. Now that's very sobering. J.D. Vance says that that's the reason that Donald Trump won the election in 2016, because these hillbillies, as he calls them, who normally don't vote, all came out to vote for Donald Trump because he connected with them. He treated them like they were real white people, and it gave them a burst of ego and energy, and they came out and supported him. And my family members who live in Appalachia areas say that during that 2016 election, people who had never voted before came out to vote. They said they came out of the hills. The hill people came out and voted, crowded out the precinct to the point that they had to stand in line as much as 2 hours to vote. And I'll just throw this in. Just a few days ago, I watched a video of the 10 poorest states in the United States, and only 2 southern states were on that list, Arkansas and Mississippi. My point is, the South is the stronghold of African Americans. Most of us live here in the South. So if black people are the poorest in the country, then more southern states should have been on that list. Now, Mississippi has a large black population. About 38 to 40% of Mississippians are black, and Arkansas's population of black people is about 15 or 16%. So Arkansas doesn't have that large a population of black people. Now, these lists do vary. If you look at another list, you'll see another set of states. But this person, I thought, did a good job of looking at the annual income of the people, the cost of housing, and the overall cost of living in that state. So I thought it was a fair list. And we also have to keep in mind that in America, when it comes to poverty, there is an effort to keep black people as the face of poverty. Now, why am I doing this video? I'm doing this video because we have been sort of bamboozled. Too many of us have embraced the idea that we're poor and we're the poorest, and we are not. The economy in a lot of these southern states, the ability to get a job, to buy a house, and to have a decent standard of living is pretty good. Now let me make clear, I don't rejoice in anybody being poor, because America is too rich of a country for anybody to be living in poverty, in my opinion. But let's touch and agree on this fact. There's poverty in America among all races of people. There are more poor white people in America than anybody. And though I would never downplay or dismiss poverty in black America, it does irk me that we are always saddled with this title of the poorest when we are not the poorest. Just do what you can to help everybody that's suffering from poverty, and not trying to put the finger or the blame on one group of people. And why they like to drag black people in and keep us at the bottom and ignore everybody else is a mystery to me, other than that we are the designated bottom caste, and evidently that is what they want everybody to believe, they being the people who are saying it. But to the extent that we can improve our own image and our own branding, I think we should do that and not always be willing to accept the most negative image and the most negative narrative about ourselves. But this is something that America needs to stop trying to hide. There's poverty in white America, and it's affecting them the same way it affects black Americans. It causes anger, it causes stress and anxiety, and it causes people to strike out. They blame the government. The government has pulled a lot of manufacturing jobs out of the United States. They blame immigrants, illegal and legal, and when all else fails, they blame black people. And their anger and frustration has propelled the rise of Donald Trump because he encourages them to blame other people for their poverty and their problems. So poor white people have their issues and they want to be heard. But because black Americans have always been the designated bottom caste, their story doesn't get told. And I think that's unfair, both to them and to black Americans. Because when America wants the world to look at poverty, they're going to show you either a homeless black person or a single mother with 3 or 4 children. And when they want to highlight hunger and talk about the people at the food bank, there's always a black woman willing to tell her side of the story as to why she's at the food bank. Even though there could be lines of cars of other races of people, and black people are not the majority, it's going to be that black woman that's going to come out there and talk about how come she's at the food bank with her 8 children. And I'm not trying to be a comedian, and I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody. I'm just talking about what I have observed. And we cooperate with our own degradation sometimes. But my point is that because we have been designated, some black people just ride with it. They embrace the idea that we are the poorest, but we really are not. So America's best kept secret, aside from these political best kept secrets, is that white people are more poor than black people, and that they need to be heard too. It has always been a problem for me that when something negative is going to be put in the spotlight, black people are going to be attached to it. And if something positive is going to be put in the spotlight, white people are going to be attached to it. So I believe that we should spread it around, because no one group is always responsible for all of the negative, and then some other group is responsible for all of the positive. We share it together. And so I think it's important to bring some of this out. And this is one of the things that has bothered me. Blaming, always sticking the poverty, the crime, the homelessness solely on black people. We are not solely responsible for any of these things. We are a part of them, but we are not the sole, in many cases, not even a majority. Not the majority of the crime, not the majority of the poverty, and not even the majority of the homelessness. Even though you might go to a particular city like Los Angeles, but look out there in Seattle. It is horrible out there too with the homeless. So I just think that, America needs to be balanced and fair, and let us all share in the good and the bad. But let me know what you think. What do you think about this? Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.